This is a difficult story to start with because my life has changed so much in the past 2 years. So, I will give you a quick account of my early past, to bring you as quickly as I can up to where the story really starts. Right, first my name is James Weatherspoons, I was 13, and I lived at home with my mum, Patricia. She worked part-time in the local greengrocers. We are a one-parent family as my father passed away after a nasty motorcycle accident 6 years ago. He was going too fast around a notorious bend on a slippery road. They said it was a quick end for him, so that was one blessing. By nature, I am a quite reserved type of person. I have always found it hard to get on with the other boys and later men. I have for some reason always found them a bit intimidating. It could be because of my size and appearance that has always made me feel inadequate. I always have been undersized for my age. You can probably blame my mother's genes for that. I also have natural blonde hair and dark blue eyes, and just to finish it off, having a very soft voice, which hasn't broken yet. It got to a point that of having a shorter crew cut to look manlier and ended up looking more like a tomboy than anything. When I was 19 years old, I still had the features of a 14-year-old. I had not even started to shave yet. I never even had a whisker, let alone two, anywhere on my body. Worse still was my voice. It never broke at all. What more could any man ask for? Thinking about it, most of the men and women I know or knew me even at school thought I was gay, because of the way I looked and spoke, but that wasn't the case. I passed a few of my exams at school, but not enough to get a really good job. So, I ended up at the age of 19 working for Cranebridge's waterproof plaster factory. You know, the ones you put on your cuts and they do not come off in the water. So, they keep telling you. I have worked there about 14 months by then and thoroughly enjoy the work. The machine that I operate produces 1 meter long waterproof plasters. Each reel that I load contains enough material to make 300 plasters. It takes 3 reels with different tapes, then I align them all up, and these come out the other end of my machine as meter-long plasters. Then they go onto a conveyor belt where they are met by 6 girls waiting to pack them in the small boxes you see in the shops. The more I turn out, the more bonus they get. The main job I do is to make sure all the plaster pieces are aligned so they come out all nice and even with no rejects, as this costs the girls money. A very simple and sometimes boring job, but the girls make up for it with their constant chatter. The girls I work with are a great bunch, except for Doris, our head honcho. She can be quite intimidating sometimes, especially when she's annoyed with someone. She has the loudest voice I have ever heard, and a very stinging vocabulary. So, we are all aware not to upset her, well, not too much anyway. The other girls I work with are June, who's 27, Christine, who's 24, Lisa, who's 28, Mary, who's 22, and Tracy, who's 25. They are always laughing or joking. It seems to me that they never seem to run out of breath talking, yet they work as hard, if not harder than anybody else on the lines. We all get on really well together. They pull my leg a lot and make rude comments to me, but it all is just funny banter, nothing serious. We even have our breaks and lunch together in the works canteen. It's really fun sometimes, as they talk about their boyfriends and what they had got up to on the previous night. They know that I haven't got a girlfriend, but they never mention it. I think they don't want to embarrass me, but I don't mind because they are such fun, and on the whole, they are really nice to me, and they make me feel one of the group. But as normal, we all have secrets. Mine being is that I like to dress up as a girl in all their finery. Obviously, no one at the factory knows this, as it is my private thing, which I enjoy immensely. Also, I'm a very lucky person, because my mother has always known about it, and she takes the attitude that if I'm not hurting anybody, then there is no harm done. The only stipulation she has given me is that I stay indoors when I'm dressed, which suits me fine. I'm not that confident to go out alone, anyway. And if someone recognized me, I dread to think what would happen. We get on well, really well as mother and daughter when I am dressed. She even calls me by my feminine name, Tanya. I help her around the house, doing some of the cooking and cleaning, also some of the washing and ironing, general things, and we get on really well sharing the chores and talking. Sometimes when I am dressed, she gives me the impression that she would have preferred a daughter to a son. Being a bit selfish, I don't mind that one bit. It was about a year ago on a Monday. I had been dressed all weekend, and went to work as usual the next morning. I think I had got lazy and not double-checked everything as I would normally do. If I had, I would have noticed that some of my mascara and eyeshadow had not been taken completely off properly. It was still faintly noticeable. And the person who noticed it, guess? Was of course Doris. She mentioned nothing until tea break, when she sauntered over to me at our table and said in a sarcastic voice, and quite loud, "James, is that mascara and eyeshadow you're wearing?" At that moment my body turned into jelly. All the girls looked at me, then at my eyes. I started to blush. June came over and looked really hard at my eyes and said, "It is, isn't it? You're wearing mascara and a blue eyeshadow." I then fully blushed and said, trying to smile, "No, it's just a fragment of black from the machine and I must have wiped it into my eyes." Of course, Doris snapped back, "Yes, and I'm the Flying Dutchman too." Well, lucky for me the bell went, and we had to go back to our work for our last shift of the day, but the whole episode had got me rattled. I mean, how were the women going to take it? Or what would they say? Or worse, what would they do? Would they still want me to work with them or not? Questions, questions, and more questions. The bell went later on for the finish of our shift and I left as soon as I could, not stopping for anybody or anything. I didn't mention it to our mom, where I could have got some advice on how to handle it the next day. I just hoped nothing would happen the next morning. I just got home and had the worst night I had ever had, thinking and dreaming about what was going to happen tomorrow. What should I say if I was asked again by any of the girls? Which I knew I would be. Could I bluff my way out? I knew the answer already. No, I did not have a poker face. I just went red, and I knew I couldn't lie to them. The next morning, I had an early small breakfast, and left before Mum got up, thinking to myself, I wonder if when a condemned man has his last meal, he feels like this. I picked up my work bag, stood by the inside of our door, thinking about going sick, but I knew I had to face it, no matter how it went. I dragged my feet as I went to work. Every step became harder and harder to take. I think every scenario went through my head, none of them with a good outcome. I clocked in. The place was empty, so I went to our table in the canteen where we would normally wait for the bell to start work. Of all people who could have been there, you guessed it, it was Doris. So, I took a big deep breath, put a smile on my face as if it was just a normal day, walked up to her and said, "Good morning, Doris, and how are you today?" Big mistake. She looked straight at me with those piercing eyes and a smirk on her face and said, "You're one of those, aren't you? You try to pretend to be a woman, so you dress up as one as well, don't you, as well as putting on makeup on?" I gulped. I just said in a very quiet voice, "Yes, but it harms nobody, does it?" Then she started, not quite screaming at me but building up to it. "You don't know what it's like to be a real woman, having to put on your bra and panties every day, then putting on your tights whatever the weather is. Making sure everything matches whether you're wearing skirts or dresses. Wearing high heels all day long, as you feel your shoes crippling your feet, making sure you look your best all the time, having to put on creams day and night to help stop the wrinkles starting, having to shave your legs and armpits so they look nice, making sure your hair is always immaculate every day, so it always looks smart, being judged by men more for your looks than your brain, then you have to put up with your periods every month, and the cramps that go with them. While you play at dressing up for a few hours, just because you feel like it, then when you stop, you can go back to being a slob of a man, not caring about anything." By now my face was scarlet. She seemed to calm down after that tirade, while I hoped she had. Then she added with that smirk again, "But if that's your thing?" and walked off. The girls started to trickle and then, they all sat down at the table looking at me. I thought, this is it. Mary was first to speak. She spoke quietly. "We all had a good honest talk about this last night down the pub. We know you like wearing makeup because we all saw it on you yesterday, and you probably like dressing up as a girl as well." She paused a moment. "Am I right?" I again just said quietly, "Yes." Thinking to myself, here it all comes, brace yourself. I felt myself starting to shake and I could feel the redness in my cheeks start to grow. "Well," she said, "we have decided that whatever you want to do in your private life is up to you. It doesn't bother any of us at all, James." But several of the girls would like to ask you some questions about it. That's if you don't mind. If you do, not another word will be said about it. How does that sound? I said, trying to put a crooked smile on my face. Of course I don't mind. It would be lovely to be able to talk to someone about it. Shall we say down at the pub tonight about 7? It should be quiet then. Smiling with that crooked fixed smile on my face, saying, okay, and thank you all for being so understanding. As a few tears ran down my face. Mary noticed this but said nothing. I was ready by 6:30 and shaking like a leaf and wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I was dreading what they might ask me, but I had decided for once to tell the truth, the best I could anyway. Arriving at the pub at 7, I thought, there's no turning back now, James, and walked up to the door and went in. As I went through the door, I saw all the girls there sat in the corner at a round table. Everyone was there, except Doris, thank goodness. I could not have coped with her as well. There was a spare chair there waiting for me with a drink placed in front of it. I hope it's a treble of any spirit, I thought. As I approached them trying to smile but still shaking all over, they all smiled at me and said, thank you for coming, James. We thought you might not have turned up at all, especially after how Doris was to you today. After taking a good swig of my drink, I said, I don't care what Doris thinks of me, it's you I care about. I said I would come, so here I am. Still trying to smile. I sat down and took another good swig of my drink and said, thank you for that, I needed that baddie. I think they call it Dutch courage. I will try to answer your questions as truthfully as I can, all right. They nodded. I said, well, here we go, what you girls like to know. June spoke first. It was quite a simple question. Are you gay? I replied, no, I don't think so. I've no interest in men when I'm dressed as a man. So, you could be interested in men when you're dressed as a woman. Thinking on this and trying to be honest, I answered by saying, when I am dressed as a woman, I feel like a woman. That's the best I can offer. Why do you like dressing up as a woman? Is it just the thrill of the clothes? Tracy asked. I don't think so, I said. It's something I've always liked or wanted to do. It just feels so natural for me when I'm dressed, so relaxed. My whole persona seems to change. I just seem so very happy and contented. Elisa said, well, does that mean would you rather be a woman than a man? I mean, have it chopped off or something? We all laughed. To be really honest, I said, I don't know. It would be a very big decision for me, and I'm not sure, but it has crossed my mind on several occasions, but I think that I'm too scared to find out more about it. June popped up again and said, well, to be honest, James, you would make a smashing girl. What with your figure and looks and all, I hate you. We all laughed again. What do you call yourself when you're dressed? Asked Mary. Do you have a female name? I said, I like to think of myself as Tanya. It's a name I have always loved. Good name, someone said. More drinks were called for, and as they flowed the questions became more personal. I was grilled for the next 2 hours. What underwear do you wear? Do you wear false boobs? Are you taking hormones? Do you prefer stockings or tights? What brand makeup do you use? The questions were endless, but I tried to answer them all as truthfully as I could. By the 6th drink I was answering anything they asked. I didn't care anymore. It was just so nice to be in the company of girls who didn't care and were just curious about me, and I could talk freely to them. It was a wonderful experience. When they ran out of questions, I think I had been answering them for what seemed like hours. They all looked around at each other, and I saw all of them give a small nod to Christine. She in turn looked at me and said, well, James, we all want to thank you ever so much for telling us all of this. We know it must be very hard talking to us about it all, but we all appreciate your honesty. Thank you again. A tear ran down my eyes as I said, no, girls, it's me who should thank you. You have made me believe there are some good people out there still. I noticed that the girls were looking at Mary, and they all gave a little nod to her. She then said just one word, hanging it out slowly, sure. They all nodded their heads again. I was looking at the girls and at Mary, wondering what was going on. Then Mary, who was sitting next to me, said quietly, James, we have something to ask you. I will explain to you the reason why afterwards. When the factory closes down for our 2-week break next week, all of us girls here always go on holiday together. This year we are going to Ibiza, but one of the girls has had to drop out. She had a fall at work in fall and broke her leg badly. So, she will be in the hospital for the next few weeks. I said, I'm sorry, and would you give her my regards and hope she gets better soon. I asked who it was, and Mary said, it is May from another line. Mary then continued, the girls and I have decided to ask you if you would like to come instead of May, rather than just losing the booking. We have paid for the hotels, the plane and transport. We're going half board, so there is only spending money to find and enough for a snack at lunch times. I just stood there astonished. She then paused again and looked at me. One of the main reasons we are asking you is that we know that you won't try it on with any of the girls, and you won't try to act all macho-like and spoil it for us, and we all like you a lot, and after what you have had burdened on your back for a long James, we think you need a break as much as we do. Maybe Doris doesn't think so, but we have agreed unanimously. Well, what do you think? Would you like to come with us or not? Suddenly one of my eyes felt wet, then the other one started. All I could manage was a thank you. You're so kind to me, thank you. I would love to. The next thing I knew was that I was in a great big hug with everyone. They were all hugging me. I had never felt so much love before. After a little while Tracy said to me, all you will need is shorts and suntan cream and that's it. We all laughed. We had one more drink to seal the deal and then left to go home. When I told our mum what the girls had suggested to me, she was over the moon saying, James, you have never been abroad before, so really enjoy every minute of it. It was the night before our holiday, and I had packed everything bearing the kitchen sink that would have come to, it would have fitted it in. There were shirts, shorts, sandals, some nice clothes so that if we went out anywhere really nice, I had some smart clothes to wear. I even packed a couple of ties. It was so exciting. We were leaving at 11 in the morning and catching a coach down to Heathrow in London, where we would be staying at a hotel at the airport. As our flight left at 5 the next morning, and we didn't want to travel overnight and be shattered when we arrived at Ibiza. The girls had decided to stay overnight in the hotel accommodation. When we arrived at the hotel, Mary booked us in, and our luggage was taken up to our rooms by the porter. It seemed the girls had really gone for it all, the perfect holiday, I thought. We then retired to the bar. After a few drinks, Mary said to us all, what shall we plan to do on our holiday? Lots of voices came back shouting, sunbathe, shop, sunbathe, see the sights, sunbathe, shop. We all laughed. You get the idea, someone shouted. I laughed and said, yes, I think I get the idea. We all laughed again. Doris just smirked. To try to lighten the mood between Doris and me, I said, come on Doris, you can't catch anything from me, I'm quite safe, I've had all my jabs, even the vets passed me. She just looked at me, smiled and said nothing. The next morning, we came down to breakfast. All of us except Doris had hangovers. As we nibbled at our breakfast, our luggage was loaded onto the small coach which would take us to the airport. That took all of 3 minutes. When we arrived, Mary booked us all in with our passports etc. while our luggage was whisked through customs and loaded on the plane. That left us with only our hand luggage, which just held passports, books, magazines, face wipes, and the other odd things that you think you might need on the plane. When it was time to board, we all excitedly went to the plane and were shown our seats. After we had taken off and as soon as the steward came around, we ordered drinks to celebrate the start of our holiday. We were in the air about 3 hours when we started descending. We all were so excited, as Mary said. 2 weeks of sand, sea and shopping. We all laughed at that. It was a lovely smooth landing, and we went through immigration with no trouble at all. We then made our way to the luggage roundabout to collect our luggage when it eventually appeared. Watching it go around and around was almost hypnotic. Then there was the rush for your bags. It was quite funny to watch everybody trying to grab their case before it disappeared again. As we were waiting, I saw the girls taking their luggage off, one by one, until I was the only one left without a suitcase. I waited until everybody else had taken their luggage off and the roundabout was empty. My first thought was that it had got stuck somewhere on the conveyor belt, so I asked one of the luggage handlers to check for me. I told him the color of the case, and that it had labels on it, explaining everything about it, even down to the color. He came back after about 15 minutes and said that all the luggage from the plane had been accounted for. I was devastated. What could I do now? I had some money to buy a few extra clothes, but that would leave me almost nothing for everything else. I looked at the girls with a panicked face. They all looked concerned, and then we saw Doris smiling. Later I found out at breakfast time in the hotel that Doris had gone back to my room and taken my suitcase from outside my bedroom and slid it underneath a spare bed in a vacant room. So, when the porter came to collect our luggage, mine of course wasn't there, so it was never taken and put on the plane. That left me with enough money to buy a couple of clothes, but not able to do or go anywhere else. I was gutted. Surely no one could be that vindictive, could they? I looked at the girls with tears in my eyes and told them about my suitcase. Lisa took charge immediately. Right, she said, let's go to our hotel first, then we can sort this all out, okay? So off we went on the coach which took us to our hotel. When we arrived, we checked in and went to our various rooms. I sat in my room for about 3/4 of an hour, while quietly crying, my very first holiday abroad with my friends, and this happens. Suddenly there was a knock at my door. I quickly dried my eyes and tried to compose myself, then answered the door. There were all the girls standing there, except Doris. They asked if they could come in. I nodded my head. They could see I had been crying as my eyes were quite red. I'm so sorry I've messed your holiday up. You carry on and have a great time. I'll just stay at the hotel and pool. It will be all okay. Then you can tell me at dinner what you have done and where you've been. I'll really look forward to that. Mary looked at me and gave me a great big hug and said, we know what happened to your suitcase. Doris couldn't stop boasting about it. Then they told me what she had done again. Why would she do something like that? Does she hate me that much for being what I am? I replied. Tracy said, yes, I'm afraid she does. Her son was like you and his father threw him out of the house and disowned him, and she's held a grudge since. I just said, that's so sad. I'm sorry for her and her son. But that's dealt with now, so let's get down to your problem, James. We girls have put our head together and come up with a drastic but feasible way it can all work out well for all of us, and be a lot of fun for us all as well. How? I said. Well said, Mary. It's like this. It's quite simple really, and so obvious. You like dressing as a girl, don't you? And you could quite easily pass for a girl. That is again so obvious to anybody. So, we are going to share our clothes with you. They all started laughing and said, you will now officially become a girl with us. Then they threw dresses, skirts, bras, panties, tights and a swimsuit at me. What size shoe do you take, Tanya? A 7, I mumbled. Did she just call me Tanya? Right, here you were then. A pair of 3-inch high heels were passed to me. I just stood there going red in the face, mumbling about, I would never pass as one of you girls. Mary replied, do you want to bet, Tanya? There you go, Tanya, the start of your first holiday as a girl. Now hurry up and put your things away and get dressed so that all of us girls can go out for a meal. I nearly cried again, but just said, you're the best friends a girl could have. They all cheered. I put my stuff away in my drawers, hanging my skirts, blouses and dresses up. I had a nice shower and then decided what I was going to wear. We were going to a nice restaurant, so I thought I had better look my best. I found a pair of dark blue panties with a white frill around the waist and legs. I knew how to tuck, so that was no problem for me. Next came a matching dark blue bra with white frills. It was a padded uplift one, so it gave me a small cleavage. I painted my finger and toenails a bright red and waited for them to dry. Then came my tights and a white half slip. I had decided to wear the light blue dress with the shoulder straps. It was elasticated in the middle, so it hugged me around the waist, giving me an appearance of a waist, while making my bust and hips look bigger and more womanish. I sat in front of the mirror and got the makeup bag they had given me, and it was everything you needed: eyeliner, eyeshadow, foundation, lipstick, everything, so I got on trying to make myself look nice but not trampy. I was still shaking with fear about going out, so my makeup took some time. I had light blue eyeshadow to match my dress and extenuate my eyes, a little blusher to lift my cheekbones higher, and of course my black eyeliner finished in a V shape at the ends, and then 2 coats of my black mascara. Then a pinky red lipstick which showed off my cupid's bow, without drawing too much attention to it. I had always kept my hair at shoulder length, so I brushed it into a high ponytail and put a blue ring around it to hold it in place at the top. After getting my face looking as I wanted it to look, which took several attempts because of my shaking, I put on the white sandals with the silver balls going around. I had high heels at home, but not as high as these. It took me a little while to get used to them, but then I was almost ready. I slipped on a small heart-shaped necklace that one of the girls had given me, and 2 small finger rings. I nearly forgot my earrings, that a girl would not ever forget, so I clipped them on. Then sprayed a small amount of perfume on my wrists and neck, picked up my clutch bag, put my lipstick and some tissues in it and sat down. Getting more and more nervous, waiting for the girls to knock on my door as the time ticked by. I had never been outdressed before and was sure that people would see me as a man dressed up as a woman. By the time the girls arrived, I was shaking like a leaf. When they all saw me, I got wolf whistles and wows from them. They couldn't believe it was me. Tracy said, "I'll tell you what, girl, if someone doesn't try to pull you tonight, I'm the Queen of Sheba. You are looking 100% woman, wow." Someone else said, "A damn sexy one at that. I think I might have some competition on this holiday." All the others commented as well, giving me the confidence to grab my bag and walk out with them, as one of the girls. We went to quite a fancy restaurant. I was still nervous as we all went in, but I was treated as just another young lady, the same as all the rest that came in. It was marvelous, something I think I have always dreamt about. We had our drinks and our meal. It was perfect until I had to go to the loo. I whispered to June that I had to go. She laughed and said, "Anybody want the loo because Tanya and I are just going?" I looked at June with a quizzical look. Again she laughed and said quietly, "When girls go to the loo they never go along, always in 2s or 3s, that way they can talk to each other in private, like, 'The boy I'm with smell,' or something, or 'I like that boy on the next table, looks quite fit,' see what I mean?" I smiled and nodded. Well, I thought, now I know why girls go in 2s or 3s, another mystery solved. We all had a great time there, except for Doris, who was not invited. I wonder why. On the way back to the hotel, I wished all of this would never end. Then I thought, don't be so silly, you've got 2 whole weeks of this, and a big smile crept its way across my face. We arrived back at the hotel and wandered into the bar. We were all laughing about something or the other. When I saw Doris sitting in the corner having a drink, I felt really sorry for her because of what had happened to her son. So, I got her and I another drink and went up and asked if I could sit down, just for a moment with her. She looked up and I could see the surprise in her eyes. I placed the drink alongside her other one. "Doris," I said, "I am so sorry if I have offended you by being one of them, but that's who I am. I was just born that way. It's nobody's fault, it's just nature. The girls told me about your son, and what happened. I am really sorry about how that turned out, but we can't help being who we are. We don't have a choice. We're just born slightly different, that's all. We're still just normal human beings with feelings, probably more feelings than normal." She looked at me with a tear in her eye. "I love my son, it never bothered me at all," she said, "but my husband was a staunch right or wrong man, no middle ground at all. He felt embarrassed because Jim wasn't in his eyes a proper man, like going down to the pub, getting drunk, worshipping his football team. But I love my son because he was so caring, so considerate, so honest about his feelings, and most of all he was my son." I put my arm around her as she started to cry. She said very quietly to me in between shedding some more tears, "It was 4 months later that we heard he had been in an accident. He was attacked by a group of lads. We never found out why, but we guessed. He never recovered. My husband wouldn't even go down to see him in the hospital. I was the only one there when he passed, and you reminded me of him so much. I was afraid to get too close, just in case anything happened to you. I couldn't bear it." I gave her a great big hug and asked her to come over and join us. I said to the girls, "If no one minds, Doris is joining us, as we have sorted everything out." All the girls cheered. For the next 2 weeks, the world was my oyster. I went on trips with the girls, made comments with them about some of the boys we had seen and met. I sunbathed by the pool and on the beach in my swimsuit and even got tan lines. I shopped with the girls, tried on different dresses. I was feeling more and more like a normal girl. I think the turning point for me was when we all went out to the local nightclub. It was one of those girls get in free nights. Whoopee for being a girl. We had a few drinks in the hotel bar before we left, so we were quite merry by the time we got to the club, but not drunk. We were sitting at one of the tables, glasses in hand, when two boys came over and asked Mary and I to dance. I started to splutter, but before I could say no or make an excuse, Mary grabbed my hand, pulled me up and said to the boys, "Of course we will, won't we, Tanya?" I was boxed in. All the girls were shouting, "Go on, Tanya, let's see you shake it about a bit." So, I got up and went with this boy to the dance floor. I made sure that I could still see the girls, at least that way it gave me a bit more confidence. After the first dance, a slow one came on. I was ready to go and sit down, but Tom, that was his name, grabbed me around the waist and said, "Come on, Tanya, just one more, a nice smoochy one." The next thing I knew was that we were dancing about an inch apart. Then he pulled me even closer. I could almost feel his heart beating. He had his arms around my waist, and for some reason I put my arms around his neck. It was the most natural thing for me to do. As he pulled me closer and held me tighter, he brought his head down to mine and brought it forward to kiss me. Without even thinking about it, I brought my mouth up to his and opened it to take his tongue, and we kissed deeply for a long time. It just felt so natural, and as we kissed, my body started to tingle, my breath became shallower. He was holding me so close and so tight. It was the best feeling that I had ever had. When the song had finished, he brought me back to the table, thanked me and gave me another kiss. All the girls were looking on, cheering and hooting. I didn't realize until we had stopped kissing what was going on. "I just went really red," Tracy said. "Well, what was it like, your first kiss? Did you enjoy it? From what we saw you were lapping it up." June asked. "Did you get any hand wandering? That would have given him a nasty shock." We all laughed. After that I had a few more dances, and a few more snogs. My inhibitions about being a boy in drag were now completely gone. I was now feeling and acting just like a normal girl like me. After a few more drinks, Mary said, "I think we had better go now before she starts taking her knickers off for everyone." We all agreed, as we were going to sunbathe all day tomorrow, and we wanted to get on the beach and pick our spot before it gets packed. Later that evening we were all sitting down after our meal and June said, "Well, Tanya, how are you feeling about being yourself in public?" I said, "It's the most wonderful feeling I have ever had. And it is thanks to you all that you have allowed me to be myself, and I love it." They were all cheering and smiling at me. Even Doris had a tear in her eye. For the next 2 weeks the things I did as Tanya were unbelievable, but that's another story. We were in the hotel bar the night before we had to leave. June said to me, "It's time to leave tomorrow, Tanya. Have you enjoyed being a proper girl for the last 2 weeks?" I replied smiling. "To be really honest," I said, looking at all the girls, "these last 2 weeks have really made me think about my future as a woman, and I've decided that when I get home, I'm going to see about going the whole way and transitioning into a woman, or as Lisa said, have it chopped off or something." They all laughed. "And one more thing, girls, if you don't mind, I'm traveling back as Tanya." They all clapped and whistled, and said things like, "Well done. It's about time. I'm so pleased for you." Doris, with tears in her eyes, said, "Tanya, I'm so proud of you." Then she gave me a great big hug. And I did. I traveled back as Tanya. I had no problems at customs or anywhere at all. The first day at work I went in early dressed as Tanya, and spoke to our boss George Cranebridge, and explained everything to him, telling him that I was going to transition into a woman. He didn't seem surprised at all. Then I asked the main and most important question of all. Would there be any problems if I asked to come back to work after the operations? Would there be any chance that I could still work for him? His reply was, "If the girls don't mind, neither do I. But you will have to work on the line. Will that be a problem for you?" I smiled and said, "It would be an honor." So here I am 2 years further on down the line, excuse the pun. I am now fully a woman, working at the factory, with all my good friends, who I still go on holiday with, but this time Tanya brings all her own clothes.